Welcome to Table for One. I'm the narrator, and in today's video, I'll be playing a solo game of Horizons of Spirit Island. This will be in the form of a semi-tutorial. So if you're just getting started with Spirit Island, you're in the right place. And in today's video, I will be using Fathomless Mud of the Swamp. Let's get rolling. Alright, so I'm set up to play a game of Horizons of Spirit Island. This is meant to be something of a tutorial. I'm not going to explain every single rule, but you'll get to see the game in action, and I'll kind of talk about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So if you're new to Spirit Island, this is probably a good place to start. So a couple notes about setup. I am playing on Board G here. When you're playing a solo game, the rulebook of Horizons of Spirit Island tells you on page 24 to just put fear tokens on the board that you're not using. So this is not in play. These lands are still on the coast. These lands are still not the coast, just like these are not the coast. They're considered to be, a boundary. So the coast is still just lands 1, 2, and 3 as normal, and there's just nothing going on up there. I've got 4 fear tokens in the blight pool instead of 8 for a 1-player game, and 6 blight tokens. Is that what I said before? I've got 4 fear tokens in the fear pool and 6 blight tokens in the blight pool. So if this ever runs out, then I automatically lose. My fear cards, I've got 1, 2, 3, and then we'll hit terror level 2 immediately. 1, 2, 3, and then terror level 3, and then another 3 cards, and then we hit an immediate victory if we are able to get that far into the fear deck. For the invader cards, I've got the whole stack here, so 1s and then 2s and then 3s, and I have shuffled each of those individually and removed a 1, a 2, and a 3, but I have not looked at them, so I don't know which 3 cards are missing. Just one number 1, 1 number 2, and 1 number 3. And as you play more Spirit Island and you get to know these cards better, you can use the information available to help you make some strategic decisions. But because some cards are missing and you don't know what they are, you don't have perfect knowledge. The minor power card deck and the major power card deck are here, and they're shuffled. And then I'm playing with Fathomless Mud of the Swamp. I just really like this one. Just look at that guy. So I've got my 4 unique starting power cards here. These are the only cards I've sleeved because I keep this stuff with my base game of Spirit Island. I don't really use this other stuff much, but I'm trying to use the Horizons of Spirit Island components for this video. And then I've chosen to play as the maroon player. That's kind of mud color like. And I've done my setup already. So I've got my town here on land 8, just according to all the setup symbols. So my city on land 2. 2 Dahan in lands 1 and in land 7, 1 Dahan in land 4, 1 in land 3, a blight token in land 5, and then according to the setup instructions here on the side of my player board, it says put 2 presents on your starting board in the lowest numbered wetland. So I'm starting on this board. There's 2 wetlands. This is number 2, number 4, so this is the lower number. So I put 2 presence tokens there. And normally when you're playing, you stack those up. And that's that's a sacred site. But with this top-down view, it's hard to tell that I have 2 there, so I'm going to put them side by side. But just to save space, normally, no matter how many you have, if you start stacking them, stack them up rather than put them next to each other like this. This is just for the video. So I start with my 4 unique power cards and 0 energy, which is pretty typical. So we can flip this over now, and I'll start covering up all except the first space on each of these 2 tracks. And listed beneath each symbol is in smaller font. It tells you what's being covered up, so you can kind of look and what's down the road and what you can uncover and make plans around it. But only the uncovered ones give you any benefits. So at the start of the game, this is typically your energy track and this one, energy track, and then your card plays track. So I start every round, I'll gain 1 energy and I can play 1 card. And then these tokens, I'll just send them over to the side here. These are multi-purpose. They just help you keep track of stuff. So I'll give you some examples of keeping track of stuff. And we're going to start the game. The part of the last step of the setup is always to do an explore action. So we're going to explore. And it looks like we're exploring in the wetlands. So this is going to be a heck of a start since I'm already starting My only presence is in the wetlands, and there's a city there, and now there's going to be an explorer as well. So unless otherwise modified, an explorer action always works like this. You take an explorer and you add them to that land type if that land type is on the coast, which it is, or if it has or is adjacent to a building. And so this land, number 4, is not on the coast, and it does not have an enemy building. The Dahan don't count. They're the inhabitants of the island, but an invader building. It does not have one, but it is adjacent to one because lands 2 and 4 are touching. So we add an explorer there. And now next round, they will build there. And now let's take a look at my special rule, offer no firm foundations. It says at your sacred site, which is just any land that has more than one of these tokens. If you have just one, your presence is there. But if you have 2 or more, it's a sacred site. So at your sacred sites, build actions add an explorer instead of a town or a city. So we know they're going to build in the wetlands next. And normally, an explorer by themselves would build a town, but the rule works like this. If you add up all the towns and then separately all the cities in that particular land, and if there are more towns than cities, then they build a city. Otherwise, they build a town. So I'll say that one more time for clarity. You add up all the towns and then you add up all the cities in each particular land. So you look at land 4, 0 towns, 0 cities. So they're the same number, so you build a town. Here, there's 1 city and 0 towns, so you build a town. If there's ever more towns and cities, so say that there was 1 town and no cities, then you build a city. That's how it normally works. But again, my special rule is where I have a sacred site, build actions will just add another explorer instead of adding a town or a city. So that's really helpful. So if they were to build here now, they would just put an explorer. Here they would still put a town because I don't have a sacred site there. So something to keep in mind. So let's take a look at these 4 starting power cards I have. I have 3 slow cards and 1 fast card. So these 3 are slow. This one is fast. The costs are 0, 0, 1, and 2 energy, respectively. They've got their elements down here on the left. And these 2 can target any land as long as it's at range 1 from where my presence is. So anywhere where I have presence, I can target that land or land adjacent to it. That's what range 1 means. This one targets range 2 from a sacred site. So I do have a sacred site here. If I only had 1, that doesn't count as a sacred site. I couldn't use it as an origin. But within 2 of this sacred site, so I could target this land or any of the lands touching it or any of the lands touching those. So I can reach this whole board from that sacred site. And then this one, Exaltation of Tangled Growth, this one targets another spirit. Whenever you play solo, you can target yourself. But if you're playing with other people, it has to be targeting another person that you're playing with, another player, a different spirit. And then the elements for these cards are down the left. We're trying to play cards and reveal on our tracks elements in these increments to trigger this other innate power, which allows us to move some of our presence around and generate fear and do some damage and push some Dahan. So those are all good things. It's very multi-purpose. So let's start the first round. And the round always starts with growth at the top here. So there are 3 sections to the growth, and you pick one of them and you complete all the actions there. So section 1 is reclaim all of your spent power cards from your discard pile, which is currently empty. So that would be kind of a wasted action. And add a presence at range 0, which means we take a presence from the leftmost spot on either of these tracks and place it at range 0 from where we already have presence. So we'd have to place it here, and that wouldn't really get us anything. So that's not a super helpful choice for this round. The next option is to add presence at range 1 from where we're at. So from here, range 1 would be where we're at or any of the adjacent land types. And then after we've done that, we can again add a presence at range 1 from either the same site, or if we, just for example, if we placed a presence here, now our next presence, we could take it from either track from the leftmost space. So we can go this track again, or we can go this track, and then we can do range 1 from here again, or from here. So we can kind of skip across the island that way. Or, you know, this game really encourages you to lean into the theme. So think of mud just kind of oozing across the island when the presence is expanding like that. And then the last option is we could add 1 presence at range 2. So again, we pick one from one of the leftmost spots of either track, and from range 2 from where we have presence, you know, that could be at 0 or 1 or 2. It means up to 2 spaces away, add a presence. And we also gain 2 energy and gain a power card. And as a quick reminder, when we gain a power card, we pick one of these 2 decks, either a minor or a major. You draw 4 cards from that deck and you keep 1. If you are claiming a minor power, that's it. That's all you do. If you're taking a major power, not only do you keep one, but then you must permanently forget one card from your hand. And that could include the one that you're taking from the major deck if you really don't like it. In general, these tend to be, stronger cards, but again, you're having to lose a card to get it. They also tend to be more expensive. So these minors will have a cost from 0 to 2, and the majors will have a cost of 3 or more energy each time you play it. Both decks will have a mix of slow powers and fast powers, and then the majors generally have something similar to the innate here, where if you have enough elements of a certain type, you'll trigger some sort of extra ability on it. So the majors will have that, the minors typically won't. So I just kind of want to grow and spread right now, and I want my spirit to get more powerful, and I want to have more options in the future because things are kind of under control right now. I'm not at any risk of immediately losing the game, so I'd be better off. Just think about it as investing rather than trying to solve all my problems right now, because you're not going to win the game on turn 1. So to do that, I'm going to take this second option. I'm going to place a presence at range 2 or at range 1, and then another one at range 1. And I'm going to take the first one from this top track, and I'll place it here in this wetlands. And then I'll take my second one also from the top track, and I will place it in the wetlands again. So now I've made a second sacred site in the wetlands. I've done a couple other things as well. I've revealed a plant element icon up there on my track, so I permanently have one plant. So this bottom innate power, for example, you need to trigger it, you need to have 3 moons, 4 water, 3 earth, and 2 plant. And that's typically found on the power cards that you've played this round. But that 2 plant, I've permanently got 1 plant already, so I would only need to play 1 more. So as you unlock elements on your tracks, these innates will get easier to unlock. But that's it. I've done all my steps from the growth area that I've picked, which is this one. I've placed my 2 presents. So now I gain 2 energy, and I'll put that here, 1, 2, and now I can play up to 1 power card. And I will play this one. I'll put it here. This is Foul Vapors of Fetid Muck, which sounds pretty yucky. So the 2 things we need to note right now are it's slow, so we won't activate it until the slow phase, and it costs 0 energy. If it had an energy cost, I would have to pay it now, but because it costs 0, I can hold on to this 2 energy. And if we look at the elements on my innate here, I need 1 water to trigger the first phase, or the first level, which I do have. I have a water. The second level needs 2 water, an earth, and a moon. I've got 1 water and 1 earth, but no moon. I've got this plant, that doesn't help me, and only 1 water out of 2. So I only triggered the top level of this innate. So let's go ahead and use one of these. Just as a reminder, I'll put this here to remind me that the top level is unlocked, but that's it. If I had unlocked more levels, you perform all the thresholds just one at a time from top to bottom. So you do that one, and then the next one, and then the next one until you reach the threshold that you've unlocked. And they all happen in the same target land. So we'll see that when we get there. So that's it for the spirit phase. So again, the spirit phase is I did one of these 3 growth options, I gained my energy, I played my cards, paying for them at that time. So now we're going into the fast phase. So if I had played any fast power cards, they would take effect now. But I have chosen not to play any fast power cards. I've only played slow ones. So now we go to the invader phase. The invader phase starts by first resolving any earned fear cards. We don't have any of those yet. So there's nothing there to resolve. And now we're going to resolve these effects from left to right. So we're going to start by ravaging in this land. And there is no card here yet, so there is no ravage. Now we're going to build in the wetlands. So normally both of these lands would get a town, both of those wetlands, but because of my special rule, at your sacred sites, build actions add an explorer instead of a building. These are both sacred sites because they both have 2 presents. So on both of those lands, we're just going to add an explorer. So that was the build action. And now we're going to explore in the sands. I'll just put that there for now. And then we add an explorer to each sand that's on the coast. So that's this one here. Or to each sand that has an invader building or is adjacent to an invader building. So this one is adjacent to a town and to a city. It's adjacent to at least 1 invader building, so it gets an explorer. Likewise, this one was the coast. It's also adjacent to a building. Each land can only be explored 1 time. You don't have to explore them multiple times. And then we'll shift this down. So now we know next round, the invaders will ravage in the wetlands and build in the sand and then explore somewhere else. So we are still on these level 1 cards, by the way. And so the level 1 cards, there are 4 in the deck. There's a wetland, a sand, there's a mountain, and a jungle. We've randomly removed one of them from the game. We've removed a level 1 card, a level 2 card, and a level 3. So we know that they won't explore the wetlands or the sands next because it's another level 1 card. So it has to be either the jungles or the mountains, but we don't know which. So that's just something that could be helpful to keep track of. So that's it for the invader phase. Now it's the slow phase. So now we activate any slow powers we have. So I have this card, which is slow, and my innate power is also slow. So I get to activate them in any order I want. And if I was playing with other people, with multiple people, it is a cooperative game. So we can all activate our slow powers collectively in whatever order we want. So I can do a slow power, and then you can do one, and then I can do another one. It doesn't have to be like in a player turn order. We all collectively decide the order we want things to happen because these effects could interact with each other, and that could be useful. So I think I'm going to activate this card first. So first it says 1 fear. So I just take 1 fear from the fear pool and put it down here in the generated fear section. And then I can push up to 2 explorers. And again, I need to target a land with invaders that's within range 2 of a sacred site. Well, I'm going to target this land here, land 4, which has a sacred site. So it's definitely within range 2. And I'm going to push one of the explorers down here into land 2. I could push them both, but I only want to push one, and you will see why later in the next turn. Well, I won't keep you in suspense. They're going to ravage in the wetlands, and I want this Dahan to take out this one explorer. If there were 2 explorers, I would have lost the Dahan, gotten a blight, lost a presence, and there would still be 2 explorers there. But by pushing one is not enough to do any real damage, and the Dahan will fight back and take out that explorer. So you'll see that play out next turn. So I've done this card. Now I can do my innate, which says within range 1 of a sacred site, I can move one of my presents from the origin sacred site to the target land. And this is required if I'm going to do any of the other stuff on this innate. And so I'm going to target this land from this one and now move my presence as required to here. So now instead of having a sacred site here, I just have a presence here and a presence here, which will allow me to do different targeting things. So I'm going to turn this card sideways now because it's been used. This is, I'll put it over here. I'll put it up here. That's my discard pile, okay? And now we move into the phase that's just called time passes, which means we reset for round 2. So at the start of round 2, I again get to pick one of these 3 growth options. So the first one would allow me to reclaim all my spent cards, so I'd get 1 card back. But that's not very efficient right now. I've still got all these other cards I can use, and then place a presence at range 0. So basically place a presence where I already have one, so I could turn one of these 2 spaces back into a sacred site. I could, if I wanted, choose the second option again and put 2 more presents on the board, but I think I'm going to take this third option here. So that'll give me a power card, 2 energy, and I can place a presence. And I can resolve those in any order I want. So I'm going to start with the power card, and I'm going to choose from the minor deck. So I take the top 4 cards off the deck, and I can look at them. So similar to my own starting hand, we have 3 slow powers and 1 fast power. These 3 cost 0. This one costs 1. If we look at the elements, none of them have water, which I kind of need. 3 of them have plant. I do need plant, but only at that highest threshold. I'm not really there yet. I really need more moons and earth. And this one has a moon, and this one has an earth. So that's not going to be the only deciding factor, but that's something to think about. And at a high level, this one is generating fear and pushing explorers and towns. This one is doing damage and pushing explorers. This one is generating fear and doing damage, and if you get enough animal element, which is this one on the bottom, which I don't have very many of, you can also do extra damage. And this one is just a means of generating energy. And so I think I want this one. So this one does 2 damage, it pushes an explorer. That's all good stuff. I can use it pretty quickly here. And then these just go in a discard pile up here. These are gone. So this one is immediately in my hand, and now we're still doing growth, so I also gain 2 energy from this growth option. So I have 2, let's just replace a 1 with a 3. Now I have 4 energy, and now I can add a presence at range 2, so 2 away from where I have presence now. And so I'm going to take this one here, so that'll give me a second card to play, and I'm going to place it here. I'm going to make a sacred site here again. And now I gain my 2 energy. And now I can play up to 2 cards this time, and I'm going to play Exaltation of Tangled Growth, which is slow, but that'll allow me to gain more power cards, and then I'll play this new one as well, which is called Rouse the Trees and Stones. So they're both slow powers, This one costs 0, this one costs 1, and it's recommended you just take the energy and you put it on the card to show that you've paid for it, and then just remove it from the card when you play it. So even though, again, they're slow powers, I do need to pay for them now. And then if we look at my innate power, again, the first threshold is just have 1 water, and I do have that. The second threshold, I need a moon, which I don't have any moons. I need an earth. I do have 2 earth. I need 2 water. I've only got 1 water, but I don't meet that threshold. So it's just going to be the top threshold of my innate power again. So now we go to the fast phase, and again, I have not played any fast powers. I do not have a fast innate, so none of those are activated. So that phase is immediately over. And now we go to the invader phase, starting with any earned fear cards. Again, no fear cards there to resolve. So now we're going to resolve these cards from left to right. So we're going to ravage in the wetlands, and we can do these in any order that we choose. Let's start with this one. So there's an explorer here. Explorers do 1 damage both to the land and to any Dahan who are there. Now the land doesn't blight unless you do 2 damage, so nothing happens to the land, and the Dahan takes a hit, so we'll flip it over to the damage side. So the Dahan has 1 health left, and then the Dahan can fight back. So each Dahan deals 2 damage. This explorer takes 1 hit, and then they're eliminated, and there's no one else to deal the damage to. So that land is cleared, just meaning there are no more explorers in it. Now we're going to resolve this wetland, wetland number 2. So there's a city which does 3 damage, and then 3 explorers, so that's 6 damage total. That is 2 or more. So we're going to add a blight token to this land, and we're also going to remove a presence. This presence is destroyed, so I'm just going to place it up here. That's sort of out of the game. And I'm going to remove the 3 explorers and just replace them with a 3 explorer token just to save space. Just like that. So there's a city, 3 explorers, and now a blight in this land, which we don't love, but don't be too afraid of blight. It's going to happen sometimes. And that's all of our ravage actions. So I'm moving this into the discard pile now. The wetlands are kind of done for this cycle. Now we're going to build in the sands. So there's an explorer in this sand and an explorer in this sand. Neither one of them are my sacred sites. The special rule doesn't apply. So we add a town to each of those lands. So here we go. If there were already more towns than cities in either of those lands, then we would build a city. But that is not the case. So we've now built in the sands, and now we're going to explore in the mountains. So we add an explorer to this mountain because it's on the coast, and this mountain because there's a building there or it is adjacent to a building. So here and here, the board is starting to fill up with pieces. And that's it for the invader phase. So now I can resolve my slow powers in any order that I want. So let's start with this power card. So I'm going to take the energy off it just to show that I've used it. But it says within range 1 of a sacred site, I can target a land that does not have blight. So I have a sacred site here. I can target this land, but I cannot target this one because there's blight. And I can't target this one because there's blight. This one doesn't have blight, and there's invaders there. This one's too far away. That one's range 2, so I can't target that mountain. So I'm going to target land 3 here, and it says I can do 2 damage. So I'm going to do 2 damage to this, this town, which is enough to destroy it. And whenever a town is destroyed, you generate 1 fear. So this card is done, and I'm going to resolve this one next. So I'm going to target myself, and this says the target spirit may pay 1 energy to gain a power card. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pay 1 energy and gain another power card. I'm going to draw from the minor deck again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I don't have a ton of energy, and I want to be able to have a lot of options. So I get to pick one of these. And there's a few cards that I like here. In particular, these 2 both allow you to remove a blight, whereas this one forces you to add a blight. But they're all pretty interesting. But I think I'm going to take this one. It's a fast power. It has no cost, and it allows you to defend 5. So one of my starting cards allows me to defend 5 as well, but it costs 2. This one costs nothing, and now I can potentially defend 2 lands at 5, which is pretty powerful. And then this card says you may pay 2 energy to gain a power card. So I paid 1 energy to gain a power card because I was the target, but then also as the caster, if you will, I can pay 2 energy to gain another card, and I will do that. So I'm going to take this 3 energy and make change with it and gain yet another minor power. I want to build up a good roster of minor powers to choose from. So what do we have here? Oh, and these are all really good. This one generates a bunch of fear. This one you can replace explorers with Dahan. This one you can do damage or remove blight, which is pretty nice. And then this one you can push an explorer or generate fear. And I think I'll take this one, even though I would really like to have all of those. They're all great. So now I have resolved this card, and I can still resolve my innate power, which would really just let me move one presence from my sacred site to an adjacent land. But I don't think I really have any reason to do that right now, so I'm going to choose not to resolve that power. That's totally fine. So now we do time passes again, so this injured Dahan is healed. There are no injured buildings to flip back over. So now we're back at the top. We're at round 3, and we get to pick a growth option. And I'm going to do this middle one again so I can add a presence at range 1 and then add a presence at range 1. And I'm going to take from this bottom track and add a presence at range 1. Then I'll take from the bottom track again and add a presence at range 1. So I've got a new sacred site here in these mountains. And now that I've finished the growth portion, I gain 2 energy, and then I can play up to 3 power cards. So here's my 2 energy, and I can play up to 3 cards. And I've also unveiled an earth element, so now I permanently have 1 earth. And for my 3 cards, I'm going to play this one, Intractable Thickets and Thorns, Open Shifting Waterways, and Call of the Dahan, which I just picked up. So this first one, Intractable Thickets and Thorns, is 1 fear and defend 5, but it costs me 2 energy. I just got a card recently that also defends 5 and costs 0 energy, but I wanted this earth element, which this one does not have. And the bonus to this one is that it also generates 1 fear. So I'm going to pay extra for it, but I think it's the right thing to do. So that costs 2 energy. This one costs 1. This one costs 1. And if we look at my elements, I've got 1, 2, 3 water, 3 moons, 2 earth, 2 plant. Let's see where that gets us. Do I have at least 1 water? Yes. Do I have 2 water, a moon, and an earth? Yes. Let's check the next threshold. Do I have 2 moons? Yes. 3 water, 1, 2, 3, 2 earth, 1, 2. Yes, I do. I do not have the 4th tier, though, because I do not have 4 water. I've got 3 water. So by playing this card, which costs 2 energy, instead of this card, which costs none, it gained me the extra earth I needed for the 3rd tier of this innate power. So we'll get to see that in action in a little bit. But now we go to the fast phase, and I do have a fast power. That's this one here. So let's take off the 2 energy to show that I've paid for it. And this is fast, range 1 in any land. You can gain 1 fear and defend 5. So I'm going to target this land here. So let's gain the 1 fear and then defend 5. And so you can use these tokens like this. I'll flip it over and use the other side to show that this symbol is referring to this card. This land is defended with 5. And I don't have any other fast powers. So that's it for the fast phase. We go to the invader phase. Still no earned fear cards. So we go down to this stack and resolve from left to right. So first, the invader is going to ravage in the sands. Again, we can pick the order. I'll start here. This explorer does 1 damage to the land and 1 to the Dahan. It injures the Dahan, doesn't do anything to the land. And now the Dahan fight back, 2 damage. They take out the explorer. And then in this land here, the town would normally do 2 damage, the explorer would be a 3rd. There are no Dahan there, but that would be enough to add another blight. And because there's already a blight, I would have to add 1 and then cascade 1 to an adjacent land. And that can compound. So if I cascaded to here, which already has 1, I would have to cascade again from there. It's something we don't want to mess with because that's going to start depleting this pool. So they do 3 damage, but I've defended it by 5. So in total, no damage there. We don't need to add any blight. That land is solved. That's the end of that ravage. So now we need to build in the mountains. So in this mountain, they're going to build a town. And then in this mountain, I have a sacred site. So my special rule says that they're just going to add an explorer instead of adding a building. And that's all of the mountains, so I'll shift that down. And now we're going to explore in the coast. All right, so the level 1 cards, there were 4 cards, I told you, a wetland, a sand, a mountain, and a jungle. And we took 1 out of the game randomly. The level 2 cards are the same 4 cards plus 1 that says coastal. And again, I randomly took 1 out of the game, so I don't know which one I'm missing. But coastal means they're going to explore all 3 of the coastal lands at once instead of any particular land type. So we're going to add an explorer in that mountain, in this wetland, which is really getting built up a lot, and in this sand, which we had just cleared. And that's where they will build next time. So because of the way the explorer action works, where they always explore the land if it's either on the coast or adjacent to a building or has a building, an invader building, general high-level strategy, it's a good idea to try and eliminate the invaders from deep within the island and push them towards the coast. Because if you eliminate it from the coast, they're still going to continue to explore from the coast, and they'll follow you that way. So if you can eliminate them this way, then eventually you'll be down to just the lands on the coast. It just gives you a way to focus your actions. But that's it for the invader phase. So now we go to the slow phase, and I've got my innate power plus 2 other power cards I can use. And so let me try and put some of that advice to action now. I'm going to start with this card here. And so I target any land within range 1 of my presence, and I'm going to target this land here, land 8, and it says to gather up to 2 Dahan. So I'm going to take these 2 Dahan from an adjacent land and gather them in, and then it says if Dahan and invaders are present, 1 fear and 1 damage. So we'll do the damage to this explorer, so they're gone, and the 1 fear now has filled up the generated fear. The fear pool is empty, so we slide all these back. And we've now earned our first fear card. So we don't know what it is, but we'll reveal that before the next invader phase. And it's invariably something good. And we're trying to generate fear, so that's going to help us. We don't know how, but it'll help us before the invaders do their stuff next round. And now I'll resolve this card. And I have to target a land range 1 from me that, at most range 1 from me, that also has Dahan. So I'm going to target the same land again, because this land has Dahan, and it's definitely within range 1 of me, because I have presence there. And it says replace 1 explorer with a Dahan, or if you have 2 moons, and I have 1, 2, 3 moons, if you have at least 2 moons, you may instead replace 1 town with 1 Dahan. That is very useful. So I'm going to replace the town with the Dahan. I did not destroy a town, so that doesn't generate any fear. I just replaced it, but it's still very helpful for me. That land is basically solved. When it goes to Ravage next time, that explorer won't stand a chance, and that land won't have any more explorers in it, or invaders. So now I've done all these cards, and I still have my innate. And so for my innate, I'm going to target this sand from here. I could target it from here or from here, but the first step says move 1 presence from the origin sacred site to the targeted land, and it's required. So I'm going to move this one here because I'd rather have sacred sites closer to the coast where I'm trying to do some fighting rather than hanging out here in the back where I'm trying to eliminate everyone, especially since the elimination seems to be going okay. So now this says the next tier, in this same land, in the target land, generate 1 fear, do 1 damage, and I'm going to damage the town, so I flip it over, and push 1 Dahan. There are no Dahan there to push, so I just skip that step. And now I go to tier 3, which I've also unlocked, and that says generate 1 fear and do 1 damage. So I'll do the damage to this already damaged town, which destroys it, and that, destroying the town, generates another fear. And then again, push 1 Dahan, but I don't have a Dahan to push. Unlike this card that I played before, where I had to target a land with Dahan, this power just requires me to target a land with invaders, so it's okay if the Dahan aren't there to push. So now I've taken all of my slow actions, so I can take these reminder tokens back, and these cards get discarded. I'll take this back, and there's nothing. Oh, there is. There's an injured Dahan, so we flip that back over. They've healed, and now we're at the start of the next round. And once again, we are at growth. So I need to pick one of these 3 options, and now would probably be a good time to pick that first one because most of my cards are discarded. I only have 1 card left. So I'm going to pick that option that allows me to reclaim all of my cards. So let's lay these back out so I can see them. And perhaps you can see some of them too. Ideally. If you're trying to keep track, the 4 cards on the bottom were my starting cards. I'll put them back in the order that I had them. I realize you probably can't read them. I would love to get a new high definition camera because the one I'm using is like 12 years old right now, and it outputs to a format that I have to encode before I can even edit it, and it splits everything into 11-minute chunks. It's a real pain. So I'd like to get a new camera. If you'd like to help me buy a new camera, go to the description. I've got a coffee page, ko-fi. You can make a donation. I don't do Patreon on this channel. I try and not have anything behind a paywall. Everything is free for everyone at the same time, but a donation would be useful. So thank you if you can. But I have now reclaimed my cards, and now I can add a presence at range 0. And I'm going to take it from this track to up my energy income, and at range 0. So I've got to put this presence somewhere where I already have presence. And I might as well put it here, because that is a coastal land where they're going to build this time. And if I have a sacred site, they'll put an explorer instead of a town. I don't have a way to make a sacred site in either of these other two coastal lands, so might as well do it here. So that's it for growth. Now I gain 3 energy, and I can play up to 3 power cards. And so I would like to play this one, and this one. Slide these over, so I've got 4 left in my hand, and these are going to cost 1, 2 energy, 1 energy, and 0. All right, so those are the cards that I'm playing. Let's check my elements real quick. I have at least 1 water. I see that. Do I have a moon, 2 water, and an earth? I've got moon, 2 water, and earth. Yes. How about the next level? 2 moons, 3 water, 1, 2 earth. I do have that. I doubt I have this. I would need 4 water. I've only played 3 cards. I have no water on my track. So I unlocked the first 3 tiers again. That's still pretty good. I'm happy with that. So that's it for the spirit phase, which is just the phase where we do growth and gain energy and play and pay for cards. So now we go to the fast phase, and I do have 1 fast power. This one here. So I paid my 2 energy, and this says at range 1, pick any land. So at range 1, I'm going to pick this mountain land, and I gain 1 fear and defend 5. Now, I had another defend 5 card that was free, and I would have liked to save the energy, but it had 2 things working against it. One, its range is 0, so I didn't have a way to defend there. At the bottom, it says if you have 1 air element, you can increase the power's range to 1, and I do have an air element over here. So I thought about playing those 2 together to change the range to 1, defend 5 for free, and then have a little energy left over. But what put me over the top is that this also generates 1 fear, which is usually nice, but at this particular moment, generate 1 fear is now enough to get a second fear card right before we're going to use them. So it was a little more extra helpful than usual. Plus, just kind of looking ahead and knowing that they're going to ravage and coastal lands later, a defend 5 at range 0 is probably something that's still useful to have. So that was my only fast card, and we'll go ahead and mark again, defend 5, defending 5 here in these mountains. And now we go to the invader phase, and that starts with resolving our earned fear cards. And so we've been, putting them on top as we earn them. So we've got 2 cards here, so we're going to flip the whole stack over and earn them in the order that they were earned. We'll gain the benefits in the order they were earned. So we're at terror level 1 right now. So we get the benefit under terror level 1. If we were at terror level 2, we would get a better benefit. And if we were at 3, we would get the best benefit. So we start here. Level 1 says, lands with Dahan have defend 1 per Dahan. So we're going to ravage in the mountains this time. This land has 3 Dahan, so it's going to defend 3. And this land has 2 Dahan, so it's going to defend 2 plus the 5. So this one's defending at 7. That's super strong. So I didn't really need that right now, but it certainly doesn't hurt anything. And the other earned fear card says lands with presence have defend 2. Oh boy. So this, in addition to these 3, this is another 2. Man, I could have used this next time, I guess. But yeah, everything's extra defended now. So we're defending 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and 5, 6, 7 here. Okay, well, everything's good and defended. And these effects apply just this round. They're not perpetual for the rest of the game. They're just for now. So now we ravage in the mountains, and as we've kind of already talked about, this land is super defended. It does 1 damage, but it's defended. So no Dahan need to be flipped over because that 1 damage is canceled out. The Dahan fight back. The explorer is eliminated. Same thing down here. They do 1, 2, 3, 4 damage, but I've got 1, 2, plus 5, 7 defend. So it's not enough to get through. I don't need to flip over a Dahan. I'm not blighting the land. And the Dahan do 1, 2, 3, 4 damage back. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's all eliminated. And the destroyed town generates another fear. So all in all, that was a pretty successful ravage. I'm starting to narrow down the amount of invaders on the board here. But now they're going to build in the coast. This coastal land is empty, so they're not going to build anything. That's fantastic. This one has an explorer and a Dahan. The Dahan's not really a factor, so they're just going to build a town since there's no other modifying effects there. They would build a town here because there are not more towns and cities, but I have a sacred site there, so instead they're going to build an explorer because of my special rule, or probably add an explorer. I don't know if you build explorers, but there you go. So that was the build action in the coast, and now we explore the sands. Now we explore in the sands. So that's another explorer here and another explorer here because this sand is still adjacent to a building. And now we activate slow powers. And so I'll start with this slow power, which again allows me at range 1 in a land with the Han to replace an explorer with the Han. So I think I want to target this land here. And if you have 2 moons, which I do, I have 2 moons, you may instead replace a town with a Dahan. So let's do that. Because believe it or not, I am approaching the end of this game. We'll do this card next. Within range 2 of a sacred site in a land with invaders, generate 1 fear and push up to 2 explorers. So I'm going to target this land, land 5, that's within 2 of a sacred site and it has invaders. So I generate 1 fear and push up to 2 explorers. I'm going to push them both into this very crowded coastal land here, this wetlands. So I'm going to take those 2 plus this one and add another 3 explorer token. In general, because most of your powers target only 1 land, you'd rather have 1 really built up land than a bunch of lands with just a little bit going on, because it's easier to focus on 1 place than a bunch of places. So that's 1 less place where they're going to build next time, so I don't have to worry about it now. And now I'm going to target for my innate power this land from here, and it says move 1 presence from your sacred site to the target land. That's required. And now the second level is do 1 fear, or generate 1 fear, do 1 damage, and push 1 Dahan. And let's push this Dahan here into this sort of crowded land here. And then the third tier, again, 1 fear, which now earns me another fear card for next time, and immediately gets me to terror level 2, which means for victory, instead of having to eliminate all invaders, I only need to eliminate all towns and cities. I don't have to worry about explorers. So suddenly, if I can just knock that 1 city off the map, the game is over. So that's great. And now I push all these back up. So that was my 1 fear. And then again, 1 damage and push 1 Dahan. So this is 1 more land now. It's a coastal land where there's nothing that's going to ravage next time. And then it's another sand that won't build next time. So I've only got 1 place to worry about. And I just need to take out that city if I can. But that was all my powers. So now we go into the time passes phase where we clean up. I'm going to take these markers back. These cards get discarded. There's nothing here that needs to be healed. And now we're at growth again. So let's see if we can close this thing out. And to do that, I'm going to take this third growth option, and I'm going to start by gaining the power card, and I'm going to take a major power this time because we're at the end here. I just need to do a bunch of damage, ideally fast, and then I can win. I don't really care much about losing a card. So I've got Tsunami, very expensive, Cleansing Floods, Pillar of Living Flame, and the Land Thrashes and Furious Pain. What they all have in common is they are all slow cards, but I think that's okay. So I'm going to keep the Land Thrashes and Furious Pain because of all the cards. That one will not only do what I want it to do, but it's also the cheapest. Oops, I was supposed to put those in the discard pile. If your deck ever does run out, you then shuffle the discard pile and just keep going, as you might expect. So this goes into my hand, but I now must forget a power card. And I will forget this one, which was my starting card that allowed me to gain new power cards. So I'll put it up here. This is my forgotten pile. So this cannot come back. It's out of the game, essentially. And now I also gain 2 energy and can place a presence. So here's my 2 energy. And I don't really think it matters for me which track I take from for my presence. I'll take this one, which gives me a permanent water. And I don't know if it matters where I place it either, but I'll place it here in this wetland. I could go up to range 2, but that seems like a good spot. So now I gain 3 energy. We'll just take one of those, and I can play up to 3 cards. I'll play this new major power card, along with this one and this one. So this one costs 0. It'll probably do nothing, but this one costs 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one costs 1, which I probably don't need. But there you go, I'm using it. So I've got 1, 2, 3 water. And I have 1, 2 moon, 1, 2 earth. So again, I unlock the 3rd threshold of this innate, but not the 4th. And I'm fine with that. I think this will be enough. So we start with the fast phase, and I've got 1 fast power, which is at range 0, pick a land and defend 5. So I'm going to pick this land here, defended 5. Now it's got a city and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 explorers. So they're going to do 10 damage by default. So the 5 defend is not going to be enough unless the fear cards help me out. So I might as well take the chance that maybe the fear cards will do something to boost my defend. But I've got 5 and we'll just see what happens. So now we go to the invader phase, and that starts with the fear cards. And we've got 1. And we're at terror level 2 now. So let's read the second level of this card. And that says, each player removes 2 explorers or 1 town from a land with Dahan. Well, this land has Dahan, and there's no towns, so let's remove 2 explorers. There we go. And hey, that actually, that's going to matter with that defend 5. That is fortunate. I think this was going to be a win anyway, but that's good. So now we're going to ravage in all the coastal lands. And there are no invaders in this coastal land or this one, but obviously here. So let's total it all up. They've got 1, 2, 3 damage, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, minus my 5 means they do 3 damage. So that's going to take out 1 Dahan and injure the other, but they do survive. And now because they've done at least 2 damage, the land blights, and this land already has blight, so we've got a cascade of blight to another land. Let's go to the sand just to demonstrate. So we'll go to the sand, and because I have a presence there and a presence here, every time you add blight to a land with your presence, you lose that presence. So I've just lost 2 presence. Now it would have made more sense to just put that blight down there where I don't have a presence, or into this jungle even, because it's adjacent to the wetland, and that wouldn't have hurt anything, but just to demonstrate how that works, I thought I'd show you. So that's the first half of the Ravage here, but now there's a surviving Dahan. So the Dahan gets to fight back and do 2 damage. And if we take out all the buildings, we win. So let's do 2 damage to the city. So that's 1, and we'll mark it with an energy to show 2 damage. So 1 more hit to that city, and we win the game. And that's it for all the coastal Ravages. And one more thing I want to talk about, though, so we get to decide the order in which we resolve those. And so, for the sake of this cascading blight, had there been something there to resolve, we may have wanted to resolve it first before the blight cascaded in, or maybe not. But it's something you can think about when it's your choice on how to resolve the each land that's ravaged and in what order. So now we're going to build in the sands, but both of the sands are empty, so there is nothing to build. So this just slides down to the ravage spot, and now they are going to explore in the mountains, and I'm not terribly worried about that. So this mountain's on the coast, so we add an explorer, but this mountain is not on the coast, and it doesn't contain an invader building, it's not adjacent to any invader buildings, so that's not even explored now. So again, that's sort of the benefit of trying to clear out the back of the island and pushing towards the coast if you can. If you're playing a multiplayer game, then it's more about controlling the middle of the island and pushing out towards the coasts. And you might build these, little safe pockets. But anyway, that was it for the invader actions, and now we can take these slow actions. And it doesn't really matter if I pick my innate or the major power or the minor power. All of them are going to do at least 1 damage, and I'm going to take out that city. So the game is won, but let's show the major power just because that's kind of fun. So we'll take the 4 energy off, and it's a slow power. And as a major, it does have a threshold here at the bottom, but I have not reached it. I needed 3 moons and 3 earths, and I only had 2 moons and 2 earths. So we're just going to resolve the top part, but slow power at range 2. So this is within range 0. So I'm going to target this land with all these guys. And it's a land that must have blight, and it has 2 blight. So we meet that criteria. And it says 2 damage per blight. And then for each blight in adjacent lands, 1 damage. So there's 2 blight here, 2 damage each. So that's 4 damage plus 1 for this adjacent one, 1 for this adjacent one. So that's going to do 6 damage in total. So we'll use 1 on this city, and the other 5 will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so this land is actually cleared. All that remains is the 2 blight, 1 of my presence, an injured Dahan, and then this token here. And as you can see, there are no buildings on the map at this moment, so we immediately win the game. We don't need to continue resolving effects. And so again, order of operations kind of matters. There was a card that I passed up earlier that added blight to the board in order to do some other effects. And so if we only had 1 blight left and that would lose us the game, we don't have to resolve that one first. We can pick the one that'll win us the game, so you do have that sort of freedom. But that's it. That is how a game of Spirit Island is played. This was Horizons of Spirit Island. If you want to know the differences between that and the actual like base game of the larger Spirit Island, I released a video today that compares and contrasts the two. The long and short of it is they are the same game. The gameplay is the same. The components are slightly different. Horizons of Spirit Island is a little more affordable. And then the spirits that they come with are different as well. The spirits that come in the Horizons of Spirit Island game box are all low complexity and, in my opinion, better for learning the game. Whereas the spirits in the base game of Spirit Island, the low complexity spirits are still more difficult, I think, than these. They're a little bit more finicky, but it also comes with some moderate and high level complexity spirits. And it comes with more and different island boards that are actually not on a chipboard like this, but they're individual pieces that you can configure and change in different ways. So again, you can check out all that information on my comparison video. I'll put a link in the description. But I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. Spirit Island is by far one of my favorite board games. I think it works awesome for solo. It's great that it's co-op, so I highly recommend it. And I hope that this this sort of more explanatory playthrough helped to give you some idea of what it looks like in action. Maybe if you had any questions, now you can kind of see what it's all about. But of course, if I missed something or if you have more questions, let me know in the comments and I would be more than happy to help you out. And if you'd like to find more Spirit Island content, not only do I have more on my channel, but if you go to my website, tablefor1.games, which again, link in the description, I've got a section of free content which includes more spirits for Spirit Island that are just made by me. They're fan-made spirits, but if you're looking for more, I've got some for you. But they do some pretty wacky things. So maybe if you're new to the franchise, start with the base spirits and take it from there. See where you go from there. But if you're still here, please consider subscribing or sharing this video with somebody else who you think might enjoy it. And of course, leave some comments and leave some likes so that I know that this is the type of content you want me to make more of. Because honestly, I've got a huge backlog. There's all sorts of content that I want to make. Most of it is not sponsored, just like this video is not sponsored. It's just stuff that I want to make, games I want to play, and which ones I record are just based off of sort of feedback that I get from the community. So if you want more Spirit Island, just let me know. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching Table for One. I hope it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a good time, and I will see you in the next video. Have an awesome week.